on both sides. I'm live on both Facebook page and Instagram. Good morning again, another perfect Saturday. So, I'm still trying to figure out this whole going live thing because, anyway, that's my problem. So earlier, before this start, I was actually going through Hi. I was actually going through the Facebook group and looking at all your questions, and probably some of you might have noticed that I answered some of your questions. But so that gives me some ideas of what we're going to talk about today. I think I've talked about supplements before. So today I actually want to talk about the ADHD diet because I've seen a lot of questions about like people trying different diet or like, oh, we eat pretty clean, we take this, and this supplement and still not quite seeing the results. So I want to talk about the ADHD diet because I think most people think that, or at least from what I see from the group inside, is that most people have some success with doing the clean diet, meaning that they eliminate most of the processed food and they also eliminate a lot of the um, food colorings and preservative and things like that. And most people do see some success in that. And in my experience, all these years working with kids with ADHD or even with autism, like every time we change the diet to something cleaner, more nutrient dense, there's always improvements. And I'm just saying the word improvement. But the thing is, it if you want to see even more significant improvement, we have to also look at the other type of food because the way the ADHD diet is, people often think that, oh yeah, there is an ADHD, like a specific ADHD diet for ADHD, just like anything, right? Like even in nutrition school, that's how we're taught. You have diabetes, you go on diabetic diet. You have heart disease, you go on heart diet. And if you have kidney problems, you go on a renal diet. So that's the thinking of most people is that there is a diet for each condition. But the way that I learned, and from my experience as a pediatric dietitian who treat very kids with very rare genetic disorder, there's no special diet for any of these. There is, but all the diet has to be specifically tailored to that child. And that's what I teach in inside my book, The Eat to Focus. That's the whole idea of the book is to help you as a parent or even as an adult with ADHD to try to identify food triggers in your diet, even though there is some fundamental healthy diet principle that you follow, but as an individual, we all react to food and things in the food very differently because we're just all very special. We're like a little snowflakes. So anyway, so the diet, so we talk about how the clean diet somewhat helps. So that's part of the diet. And like I said, in my book, I talk about the diet is actually in phases. The first phase is actually an elimination clean start diet. So the purpose of that elimination clean start is really to take out all the potential food and food additives and whatever that is in our diet that could potentially cause some of the ADHD symptoms. And again, we have to look at what food allergy is. What most people think of food allergy is they they often see on TV or know friends of friends who have like allergic reaction where they eat something and then immediately they break out into like hives, stop breathing, or have like swelling in the face. Those are very classic food allergy reaction or any reaction to anything. Like our body can be allergic to a lot of things, but not just food, because we could be allergic to environmental allergies like pollens in the air. Like I'm allergic to the weather. Like that sounds crazy, but that's how it is. But our body can be reactive to a lot of things, but not solely to food. And we also have to remember that our reaction to some of these food or or things added to the food is not always a physical manifestation. It could manifest as moodiness, mood swings, or what else? Or skin rash, just very subtle things. And that's something that we need to keep in mind when you're trying to change your diet or change your child's diet to help with the ADHD symptoms. Is not always physical manifestation. And even the idea that many people think that, oh yeah, I need to take a nap after lunch. Like it becomes something so normal that like you get tired after eating lunch or have to take a nap after lunch, that it becomes so normal that people don't even think anything about that. But the thing is, I always tell my patient, even my friends and family, if you eat a meal and you need to take a nap shortly after that, it means that the food that you ate at that meal is not good for your body. Your body's having a hard time breaking down and digesting that food. That's why your body's pulling all the resources from your brain, from your other organs to just to into the digestive system to try to break down that food. So those are little things that we're not recognizing, but like that's what I'm trying to help you understand is that reaction to food does not always show up as skin rash, difficulty breathing, or heart racing, things like that. It could be very, very subtle, just moodiness, brain fog, lack of focus, or irritability. Like even me myself, I notice when I eat certain food, it gets me more irritated, and I was just having a little bit episode this past week, but maybe I'll share that in a different um time. But you need to understand that sometimes when you have a mood swing or reaction, or your mood suddenly change for no reason, it could be because something in your environment, which include your food. But anyway, so going back to the diet, so we now understand that, or now you know that there could be potential hidden food sensitivity that is in the food. It's not all about eating a clean diet. It's about eliminating that could food and additives that could affect your child or your behavior. So in the clean start, the elimination clean start diet, which is the first phase of the elimination diet. And the other thing that I want to talk about with the elimination diet is a lot of people think that the elimination diet is very restricting and it's not um, nutritionally sound, and that is totally not true. I used to get referral from doctors all the time because doctor freaks out every time the parents say, "Oh, I'm going to try the elimination diet." They freaked out because they think that the kids cannot eat most of the food that they can eat. But the thing is, the elimination diet, even though is labeled with the word elimination, it's not really eliminating. You eliminate, actually, it's more like a replacement diet because you take out the things that could potentially that or you suspect that is causing some of your ADHD symptoms, but you replace it with some other food. So like the elimination clean start diet that I talk about in my book, Eat to Focus, is it eliminates pretty much all the dairy product, all the gluten and grains and nuts and eggs. I think those are the common allergens. Some of you might have to eliminate seafood or fish because that's another very common source of food allergy. So those are things that I recommend to eliminate in the Eat to Focus, the elimination clean start phase. And the reason why is because those are very common food allergies, like food allergy as in IgE mediated food reaction. So these are reactions that happens immediately. But most of your kids, pretty much 90% of the time when I talk to my patient, their food allergy test is all negative. So, but we still want to see if there's any of that food causing some of the reaction. Just because the food allergy test comes back negative doesn't mean that you might not reacting to that reaction because intolerances are different than allergy. Allergy, like I said, is an IgE mediated reaction, which means that the immune system is actually involved. But the hidden food sensitivity or hidden food intolerance that I talk about in the elimination clean start diet, these are more chemical reaction or physical irritation from the food. So it's not necessarily something that will show up in the blood test. So a lot of this reaction is kind of like if you touch your skin or poke your skin with something, it's like, oh, it hurts, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for is more physical and chemical reaction that is not tested in the food allergy or food allergy testing panel. And besides the food allergy only have a limited choices of food that is tested. So if the food that you or your child is sensitive to is not included in the panel, it's not going to show any results. So I know that having a blood test or skin test to find what your child or you are allergic to is really easy because just one poke or like many pokes with the skin test, but it is not the most accurate and you're not going to find a lot of information out of that. And if it's a young children, I usually recommend against it because sometimes just the stress of being poked is so stressful for the parents and the child. But the most useful and the gold standard of elimination of trying to figure out what you're allergic to is actually doing the food journal and then followed by a challenge test. That's pretty much the gold standard because even when you get the blood test and still things come back positive, you still have to go through the journal and the challenge to find out if you're truly allergic to because with food allergy testings, there's so much false negative and false positive. So the so just remember that before you try to get your child to go through the trauma of getting a needle poke, a blood draw, or a skin test, there is a huge chance that the results are not reliable. So, but anyway, um, I shared a story last few times about how one of my patients allergic to actually more like sensitive, more like a chemical reaction to a lot of food um, ingredients because of history of a family history of that. So um, yeah, so food sensitivity. So how you do that is basically you just track what your child eats every day. You don't need to be super specific, but if you can put the brand in the food that you eat will be good. And then track the reaction. If they have skin rash, write down skin rash and then how bad is the reaction from 0 to 10. 0 means that the skin is perfect, normal. A 10 is like full on breakout, blister, and everything. And then you just track that for like about a week. That's how long usually I have my patients do is to track it for a week, and then they come back to see me, and then we review the symptoms together, and that usually helps a lot because just with that journaling, writing down everything that you or your child eats and the reaction after can really tell what's causing some of the symptoms. And then again, a lot of the symptoms to food intolerances is not always physical symptoms, but could be um, behavior type. Like one of my patients, her her toddler was waking up like 10 times every night because he was in so much pain. And then finally, we, with the journaling and um, with just the journaling, we actually figure out the few food that he was sensitive to. Once we remove those food, the baby went back to sleep at night, just like a normal baby, no more pain or anything. But that's really what the ADHD diet is it has to be specific for you and or your child. It's not just like something you're like, oh yeah, it's a clean diet. We take out all the junk and all the preservative and colors. Those are all good. You need all that, but then we need to add the individual portion of it, and that will come from journaling what what you or your child's eating every day, and then monitoring for a reaction afterwards. And the other thing also to remember is sometimes the reaction doesn't come immediately. Sometimes the reaction, like you could have a stomach pain like a couple hours later, or you could have a stomach pain few days later. Like me, I cannot tolerate gluten. But if I eat very refined gluten product like white bread or cake in a very small amount, I'm okay with that. But if I keep eating gluten product every day, by the third day I'll start having stomach pain. So those are things that it takes time to recognize, and there's no providers out there who's going to help you identify that except you. So that's one of the things that you also need to learn is for parents, you're going to be the guru of your own child. And if you're the one who have ADHD, you need to learn to be the guru yourself of your own child or for your own self. So those are things that you need to learn to um, what you say, to be aware of your body. And I think part of it is that our society have so much information, and I think a lot of people don't even trust themselves, so they rely on outside guru to tell them, oh, follow this diet, eat at this time, stop eating by this time. Like I think as a population, and kind of what I'm trying to help everyone out here is to help you understand and to listen to your body better, so that way you can have better health rather than trying to go from diet to diet, trying different supplements and different type of supplements, and nothing seems to work. But yeah, that's kind of my goal. And that's pretty much the ADHD diet. And did I miss anything? Oh, yeah. So let's go into a little bit more detail into that. So so that's one part, eliminating all the chemical things added to the food. The second part is trying to make it individualized based on your child. So the reason why, um, and then some of you might ask, like, what about the vegan diet? I get this question a lot. And I'm not a big fan of the vegan diet. There is benefit to that, but going completely vegan is something that I'm against. And there are many reasons to that. And I know there are doctors out there who advocate for the vegan diet, like Dr. Krager, the one who wrote Eat to Live. So yeah, I didn't read his book, but he actually came to our hospital one time and did a grand round with all of us and all the doctors in a hospital. And basically, his reason for advocating the vegan diet because his grandma survived, I think, heart disease from going on a vegan diet, and which is good. I I love that story. I love that doctors are so focused on that. Like really, I appreciate that the doctors are so focused on the diet, which is a great thing because it needs to start somewhere. Okay, here's my reason why I'm against the vegan diet. Well, I'm not 100% against it. Let's make that clear. I'm more like about 10% against it, 10-20% against it. I will still eat vegan food. I have no problem with the vegan. I just didn't care about the no meat portion of it. That's my thing. Okay, hi. Um, okay, many reasons why I don't advocate absolutely no meat in the diet. First of all, from my own experience, my grandma lived until 100 years old and she eats whatever she wants. She's definitely eating meat and everything. So I don't think diet is everything when it comes to longevity and health and things like that. um, More of the how you feel in your heart and your community and the people around you, that's more important, or that's very important as well, but that's not for today's talk. So you don't need to be a full-on vegetarian to live a long happy healthy life or have no ADHD symptoms. Second of all, this is more scientific now. So Dr. Weston Price, some of you might have followed the Price Weston Price Foundation, and I kind of I'm not a follower, but I agree with their teaching. So Dr. Weston Price is a dentist. He wrote a book um, almost no almost 100 years ago. He published a book called Nutritional something nutrition and physical degenerative disease or something. But anyway, It's a very interesting book because the book was written in the 1920s, so it's almost like 100 years ago. And and he set out a dentist went and sat out and studied the diet of people in the world. So he traveled all over the world to all the very isolated places looking at people's diet that is not influenced by the Western culture, meaning there's no processed food, no refined sugar, and these are people living in isolation from the modern life, still living in the hut or in the cave, and then hunting and gathering food kind of lifestyle. And what he found was amazing, and it kind of um, wait, that's a different book, but what he found is that every culture, these hidden culture, they eat the natural food that they found in their environment. So there's not so much about like a specific diet or anything. It's just that they just find whatever is available to them in their environment. And what was interesting is he went to all these different countries, look at different kind of diets, right? And only out of all these places he went to, only two culture actually drink milk and consume dairy product. And one is the Swiss Alpine people living deep in the valley. They eat cheese and drink milk almost every day. And then the other group is, I might be wrong, but is African culture, African tribe. It might be the Maasai in Kenya. I don't remember, but it's an African tribe who actually drinks milk. So this, out of all these places he went to in the world, those are the only two cultures that actually consume dairy product. So in my mind, there's really no significant benefit for any one of us to drink dairy. And I think part of the issue with dairy is that it is so brainwashed into our brain. And it's all because of the Dairy Council have like a person sitting on the nutrition advice committee. And that's the reason why we have a recommendation of 2 3 cups of dairy a day, is because Dairy Council have a representation on the nutrition committee that creates the nutrition recommendation every day. So the dairy intake recommendation have no scientific base to that. It's all based on profit for the Dairy Council. Ding me for that. Um, and then what else? Oh, and then the other thing from his book and his published study is that there's no vegan culture in the world. All the indigenous culture that is that just eat whatever around, like the hunter gatherer lifestyle, there's no vegan. It's all about survival. So they just eat whatever they found. So that's another reason why I don't support the vegan diet, or not support it 100%, is because based on all that research, we do need some kind of animal protein in our system. The other thing is that, let me think. Oh yeah. So the other thing is more the basic human nutrition, is that we do need that specific animal protein profile to support our body to function. Because the thing is, we often think that, oh yeah, we need to eat protein because we need to build muscle and stuff. But that's only one function of muscle. When we eat protein, because we're eating the muscle protein from the animal, we think that we're going to build muscle protein in our body. But the truth is, like I said, it's only one of the function. The other function is that your body needs protein or amino acid to make brain chemicals, to make digestive enzymes so you can break down the food and pull out the amino acid. And then also need the protein and amino acid to make hormones to balance your blood sugar level, your hunger and fullness sensation, and also your sleep and wake rhythm, all of those things. So if you think of how important protein is beyond just having muscle on your body, but it's more overall body function. So that's the reason why I support the vegan diet, but not the no meat part. So the diet that I actually advocate is a plant-based diet. But most people When they think plant based, they're thinking of vegan diet. When I think plant based, I'm thinking about 90% vegan and at least 10 to 20% animal protein. That's my plant based diet. And and I'm not advocating or telling you that you need to eat big chunks of protein every meal. All you need is like eating protein or animal protein 2, 3 times a week. And that's what Dr. Weston Price found from his research from all these indigenous people is that these people don't eat a meat heavy diet. Most of the diet is composed of plant food and then a small portion of protein that they found from animal that they hunt. And that protein it might be just 2 or 3 times a week. That's all they have for protein. And as long as you get enough calories and get that well balanced composition of like nutrients, so like things like vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, that's all you need to have a well balanced diet. So that's another thing that I try to teach my clients and my people, and even in my book is knowing what what kind of food you should have in your diet. And then the next thing is how do you compose that diet or create that diet so that way it's not carb heavy, not protein heavy, and not too little calories. So there's, and again, that all goes back to listening to your body because every one of us react to food differently. And I've also have people tell me that when they go on a vegan diet, some of the symptoms get worse or they have more stomach pain because some of us just can't digest all that fiber and the beans. And speaking of fiber and beans, there are things that in the vegan diet, when you take out the meat, vegan rely heavily on like a plant-based protein. So a lot of people do more beans as a source of protein. But I always have to remind my patient who are diabetic or someone who's trying to watch the carbs intake, beans is really not a protein food. It's just a carb that has protein in it. And if you look at it, basically every food has protein in it. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds. I think I get all the vegetable thing. Yeah, so all of those food have protein. The difference is how much protein they have. Every one of them have some. So fruits and vegetables are lower protein choices, but they still have some if you eat enough of it. Beans, nuts and seeds definitely are really good plant-based protein. And then beans are a good source of protein as well, but then they also come with a lot of carbs. So if you have insulin resistance or you have diabetes, you just have to watch those protein because you might end up um, having more carbohydrate and needing more insulin if you have diabetes for that. But it's all about balance, people. Like having that right ADHD diet for you and your child is really having that the nutrients that your body needs, so like vitamins, minerals, antioxidant, and then the carbohydrate, protein, and fats in the ratio that works for you. So like a vegan diet tends to be very high in carbohydrate, but a problem is with a lot of people who eat a vegan diet who are not very well educated and just jump on it thinking that, oh yeah, I can go on a vegan diet and lose weight just like these and other people. And then but then they ended up eating the wrong thing because ice cream could be vegan, beer could be vegan, or beer is vegan, cake is vegan. So like they think that they're on a healthy diet, but then they're eating the wrong kind of food, and then they wonder why they keep gaining weight. Because I've seen so many teenagers go on vegan diet all day long. They're just shoving like processed carbs in their body, like breakfast cereal in the morning, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, two at lunch, or pasta noodles all day long. Like what kind of nutrition you're really giving yourself, and you think that you're following a vegan diet just because you're not eating meat. So my point, I guess, is rather than trying to give your diet a label or try to randomly follow any kind of diet, is try to understand your body and see what works for you. And initially, it might take some experimenting, like, but at least starting with the clean start elimination diet that I talk about on my blog or in my book, that's a good place to start. And once you go through clean start elimination phase, actually inside the book, there's a link, a meal plan link, download link that you can link and just download that meal plan. Follow that for a month. When most of the symptoms gets better, then you can start eating more of other food, introducing some of the other food back. Because the idea of the elimination clean start diet is not to stay on that diet forever. The whole point of that is to help you identify food triggers that can affect your symptoms, your ADHD symptoms, or sometimes digestive system. And the other purpose of eliminating those food is really to allow your body to heal. It's just like picking at your wounds, right? Like you know how when we're little or your kids are little, they fall and scrape the knee, and then they keep picking at the wound, right? And you keep telling them stop picking at it. So that's kind of how diet works. Is if you continue to eat the food that is triggering your symptoms, it's the same as picking at your wound. You just keep picking at it, never give the wound the chance to heal. But with the elimination clean start diet, when you eliminating the food that could potentially trigger reaction, when you eliminate those, you basically is like leaving the wound alone and let it to heal. So after a month or two on that diet, you'll be able to see some significant improvement. And when when you see those improvements, it usually means that your body is healing and recovering, regenerating some of those brain chemicals and enzymes for digestion. Then you can start reintroducing some of the food that you removed. And if you bring some of those food back and you start seeing the reaction worsen again, then you know your body is reacting to those foods. So rather than me telling you what to eat and what not, you're going to be your own guru or your own expert of your own body, because you know that hey, maybe eggs doesn't sit that well with me because I've stopped eating eggs for like 2 months now. Then now when I start eating eggs, I notice that I start feeling nauseous. Like this is actually just this past week, one of my patients, her child have very severe um what is that, skin rash, eczema, like really bad, like her whole body is covered in red. And mom actually did an elimination diet before, and she felt like nothing is working. She took out a lot of the food, but then the redness on the skin was still there. But then this time we did something more drastic. Instead of actually using a food elimination diet, we pretty much take out most of the food and use what you call an elemental formula, a very special formula that have very gentle on the intestine and have most of the allergic stuff not in there. So we did that for a week, and she said, "Oh my God," she's like, "Thank you so much." Like her skin cleared up. Like I'm talking about all red everywhere, right? And her skin clear up. So the mom, she still eats some of the food that is not potential, not the common food allergy. But the benefit of having all her skin and everything clear up is that mom was like, oh yeah, so now her skin is all clear up. And I gave her avocado the other day, and she's been even eating avocado all this time. But now because her skin is all clear, I can actually see that she is reacting to avocado. So now mom realized that her child cannot have avocado. But this whole time she was eating avocado because her skin was so red that it doesn't show any reaction because it's just so inflamed. But so that's the benefit of doing the elimination diet is it helps to bring down all the symptoms. Then when you introduce food, you can actually see what you or your child is reacting to it. So that's the elimination part. And then the other part of the ADHD diet is focusing on all the brain food, right? So brain food, we're talking about food that support brain growth and development. And in order to understand what should be included is understanding how the brain works. So your brain is actually a super hyper metabolic organ in the body besides the heart. Basically, a heart and the brain is the organ that use the most resources and energy. And your brain, even though it's a 3 pound 3 pounds piece of fat up here, it functions more like a muscle. So this 3 pounds brain that takes up about 2% of the body weight takes up about or use about 20% of the energy that you take in every day. So that tells you how important feeding the brain is, right? So the other thing is in regards to treating ADHD is like few things that we know about ADHD is that, or the ADHD brain is that the brain is somewhat behind and smaller in certain area. And also there's a lower brain chemicals. So then the question is how do we use our eating and the food to bring those chemicals level up and to push and support or boost the brain catch up growth. So now knowing our purpose, then we can now look at the food. Okay, so if the brain is like mostly fat, what kind of fat we're gonna feed our body, right? So it'll be healthy fats and specifically omega-3 fatty acid because about 8 to 10% of the brain tissue is actually omega-3 fatty acid, as in DHA and EPA. And these are super great source in fish, especially cold water fish that have a higher fat content. So that's why the fish oil is so important in treating ADHD, or seafood or fish is a good food to add to the ADHD diet if you're not allergic to it. Um, and then the other thing, so brain chemicals, we talked about earlier how brain chemicals comes from protein food. So then the other thing is we need to make sure that the diet is high in protein, not full of carbs. Even though people with ADHD tends to crave carbohydrates and sugar, but that doesn't mean that we should rely on those. So your diet should be quite heavy on protein. So but that doesn't mean that you're gonna have a huge, like half a pound or 1 pound of meat every meal. But every meal, just try to focus on choosing the protein food first, like at breakfast, having more protein at breakfast. This is something that I see all the time, like every day, every kid who comes into my office, that breakfast is a repertoire of cereal, not just the healthy ones, all the sugary cereals or Pop Tarts or what else they eat for breakfast or fruit. Those things is good, actually not the best. Like better breakfast will be something like scrambled eggs or boiled eggs if you're not allergic to eggs, or you can do like chickens, organic type of sausages like pork or chicken or beef sausage in the morning. You can even do bacon, but try and make sure you get the ones that doesn't have nitrates or nitrites. So it'll be the more expensive one you get from Whole Foods. So start with a meat in the morning and then have a vegetables or low sugar fruit. So and the same for lunch and dinner as well. Always start with thinking what protein you're gonna eat at this meal. Are you gonna have? You can choose from chicken, steak, pork, fish. If you're not allergic to fish or seafood, just start with the protein. Then you decide what vegetables and what carbs you're gonna go eat along with the protein. So yeah, so brain food. So omega-3 fatty acid food. So omega rich food. So and then healthy fats. Healthy fats we're talking about not just the fats from the fatty salmon or cod or sardines, things like that, but also things like avocado, coconut oil. Avocado is good because it's mostly monounsaturated fats, and coconut oil have a special properties actually. No one knows about it. And other dietitian will actually advocate against coconut oil because they're like, oh, it's so full of saturated fats. It is still a healthy fat. It comes from a plant. But the benefit of coconut oil is actually from the MCT oil in coconut oil, and MCT is a medium chain triglyceride. So in fats, the reason why fats have so much calories is because they come in long chain. But don't worry about the calories. We don't care about the calories. We care about what the food do to our body. So they're long chain fatty acid. Well, on Instagram you can see. There's long chain fatty acid. Oh, my camera. Long chain, then there's the medium chain, and then the short chain. So basically, what that means is the longer the chain means that it takes longer time to break it down and there's more resources because food, the way digestion work is our body is not like a blender or garbage disposal that food goes in and then you go all grind up. There's a lot of chemical reaction and enzymes needed, and this is the reason why you need to have a healthy balanced diet that have enough amino acid or protein so your body can make digestive enzymes to break down the food. Because in order for your body to use that chain of fatty acid, it needs to have specific enzymes to cut the, the long chain of fat into smaller chunks. It's not a is not a mechanical process. It is an enzymatic reaction. It needs specific enzymes because each enzymes cut a specific link. So that's what it is. So with so you have the long chain, medium chain, and then short chain. So coconut oil is actually a very um, rich or a very good source of the medium chain fatty acid. And the reason why I say it's good, um, why medium chain is good is because the medium chain is shorter. So that means it requires less enzymes to break it down. And in fact, in some cases, the medium chain can easily be absorbed through into the body without much digestion. So when it's so easy to absorb, that means that your body can use that resources a little bit faster. And we know with the ADHD brain, there is some difficulty with processing a high carb, high sugar diet. So a higher fat diet actually is best for the ADHD brain. So overall, the ADHD brain do well with a high fat and high protein diet with some carbohydrate. Don't get me wrong, your body still needs carbs and sugar, but in a controlled sense. So our body minimum needs 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, and that carbohydrate we're not going to count the added sugar. We're talking about natural carbs that comes from a plant, come from fruits and vegetables. Those are the type of carbs that I'm talking about. Sugar, I'm talking about things that are added to the food, like things like syrup, honey, agave syrup included, and any kind of added sugar. And since I'm on the topic of sugar, so let me talk about added sugar. So nowadays, when you get food, I don't have a food label right next to me, but if you look at a food label, um, actually, I think it was last year is FDA required all the food manufacturer to include added sugar in the nutrition label. So now it's a lot easier to read the nutrition label, but I'm still not going to teach you how to read everything on it. But all I want you to focus on is the added sugar on the nutrition label. So if you just go pick up something in your kitchen, in the store, you turn it around, look at the nutrition label, and go down the list. And under total carbohydrate, you should see a category that says added sugars. So that's the number that you're going to look at. And this is the numbers. If you have a pen, you can write it down. If not, you can come back to this video later. Recommendation for added sugar a day from the American Heart Association for adult women is 24 grams of added sugar a day. 24, 24. And for men, okay, I don't really pay much attention to the men, but I think it's 30 or 36 grams. I might be wrong, but I have that information somewhere in my blog. So, but I'll go find it. Sorry, guys. Um, yeah. So recommendation is 24 grams of added sugar a day. So and it is specifically for added sugar. So anything that is added. So sugar syrups, honey, agave syrup, juice, soda, blah blah blah, all of those. And then for kids, the recommendation actually come from the American Pediatric Academy. And I'm actually disappointed at the recommendations because their recommendation is for 2 years and up, 2 year old toddler up to teenagers. The recommendation is 24 grams also, same as an adult woman. That doesn't make sense. A 2 year old shouldn't be having 24 grams of sugar a day. That's way too much for a 2 year old. But I'll give you a recommendation later. I'll say actually less than 10 grams a day for little kids like that. But anyway, so knowing that the recommendation is to not try not to go over 24, so just try. You don't have to stick to it. Don't beat yourself up if you have 30 or 40. Don't worry. Um, so knowing where the recommendation is, and now we become a better educated consumer because now we can go to a store, pick up a thing of beef jerky. Oh my God, you'll be surprised. The other day I went to Costco and I was just having some, not really craving, but just want to have beef jerky, right? So I went to Costco and just like any other regular consumer, I just go and grab this beef jerky that says organic, right? I was like, oh, good, they make organic beef jerky. So I picked it up. I was excited, right? But I was like, oh, let me just look and see what's in the ingredients. So I flipped the thing over and I start looking at the list. Like, trust me, I'm one of the dietitian, or maybe one of the only dietitian who doesn't read the nutrition label. But now I do, just looking at the sugar because I realize there's so much sugar in everything. Like there's sugar in things that you don't even think will have sugar in it. So I start looking at that, but I only look at the added sugar. That's all right. So I picked up this bag of organic beef jerky at Costco, and I flip it over, and then I look at the list. Oop, added sugar. Oh my God, 6 grams of sugar in 1 ounce of beef jerky. So 1 ounce of beef jerky, 1 ounce is not a lot, right? So it's like maybe two pieces of beef jerky. You get six grams of sugar already. And I'm sure this tastes good because it's like beef candy. So I was like, forget it, let's put it back. So then I keep looking. So basically, all the beef jerky have sugar in it. So it's I'm not saying that you shouldn't eat beef jerky at all because there's sugar, but it's like knowing that there is a limit that you should try to avoid. Then you're like, oh, okay, this one have 6 grams, I should put it back. This one have 5 grams, probably should put it back too. And then I found a few beef jerky that at Costco now that actually have maybe 2 or 3 grams. So I was like, okay, 2 or 3 grams, not too bad. So it still give it a sweet taste. This beef jerky should taste good. And I'll do a food review later on about different food. But um, but then later, I went to it might be Walmart because that's what my patient told me they found something at Walmart. It might be Walmart, but I can't remember exactly where I got this. But I found a beef jerky that actually has no sugar in it, and it tastes pretty good, just like beef jerky. It's a bit dry, but then again, I'm telling you this is not that I want to be a food police and say, oh my God, that's sugar, you can't eat it. Is I want you to understand how to make better choices when it comes to food. So like me ended up buying a beef jerky from Costco that have like maybe 2 or 3 grams of sugar in the in 1 ounce of beef jerky. And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting some extra sugar that I don't need, but you know what? I'm enjoying it. Who cares? So, but but having that information, that understanding helps you make better choices. Because otherwise, you're gonna get that bag of like organic beef jerky, thinking that you're getting like, oh my God, this is like the best and most amazing beef jerky. I'll just eat the whole bag and not realize that you're eating so much extra sugar. And then you're like, oh my God, why am I not able to focus afterwards? Or, oh my God, why is my child like throwing crazy tantrum after eating this beef jerky? Like understanding that helps you make better choices. But yeah, let me think. And then the other part of the ADHD diet is basically correcting nutritional deficiency. And I know we often say that eating food to get our nutrients is the best source, but it's the best source for maintaining your nutritional profile. But if you have a deficiency, when you have an empty bucket, you need to have supplements. It's like filling up a bucket. If you're trying to eat the food to correct your iron deficiency, it's like filling up your bucket with a dropper. But when you have an iron deficiency, you need to take uh, an iron supplement to bring the level up back to normal or back to par as soon as possible. That's what supplements are for. And yeah, so supplements are not magic pills, and you just need to understand why you use something. And I think that's the um, trouble problems that a lot of people run into based on the question I see in the ADHD Facebook group is that people trying different supplements but don't understand why they're taking it, why it works, but they just depend on other people saying, "Oh, I tried these supplements, it works." And other thing is that my ADHD group, I'm against CBD. I know that a lot of people say that it works, and it works. The CBD works is because it calms your anxiety down. People who has ADHD often also have anxiety. You need to look at those two together because anxiety and ADHD, we often look at them as two separate problems, but they're related. Just know that when you have anxiety, you're worrying all the time. You're constantly on high alert. Your focus is not going to be the best. It is all related. So the CBD works for ADHD is because it helps calm your anxiety down. When your anxiety and stress level is down, your ADHD symptoms get better because now you're like, oh my God, I can think clearly now because I'm not worrying about something bad that's going to happen to me. But the thing is that CBD, the reason why I advocate against CBD is because, first of all, there's no perfect manufacturer out there who can make a perfectly clean CBD concoction, especially the ones that you get from the dispensary or just from random people selling it. The only CBD or only CBD medication that I advocate and approve is the, I think it's called Epilox, the new medication that is used to treat seizure. That's the only thing that I will support. Anything else CBD related, I'm against it because there's a lot of impurities in the CBD oil, CBD, whatever concoction, and everything. There's a lot of contamination. You're not getting pure CBD because getting pure CBD is almost impossible and super difficult and super expensive process. So if you get some CBD oil, gummies, whatever that is super cheap, chances is you're getting a lot of THC and also a lot of impurities, contamination, metal contaminations in it. The other thing that I advocate against, which drives me nuts, is the Brillia, the brand Brillia. I think that's how you call it. And Brillia and then the NTFR2. I know there are people selling that in my group, so this is a public notice or a public announcement saying that please don't engage with the people trying to sell you the NTFR2 or the Brillia because I did the research. There's no research to support it. It might work for some people, could be out of placebo effects. So if placebo effects work in that sense, just do placebo effects in something else. Just focus on telling yourself that, oh yeah, my ADHD is better. Because, yeah, I'll talk about placebo effects in another day. But I think I talked a lot today, and I hope that you all get some really good information today. And then, and lately I saw a lot of green tea matcha post and question, and I think I answered that in last week live. But today, I just want to show you this is my green tea cashew milk. I actually make this a couple times a week, and I can show you post the recipe like when I have the time. But this is what I drink, and it's matcha green tea in it with my special cashew milk, not the one from the store, and also with protein powder. So this is actually my breakfast today because I didn't have time to make my smoothie. But anyway, so happy to see you all here, and I'll talk to you again next week. Okay, bye. Have a very good weekend, everyone.